The Endeavour shuddered as explosions rocked its hull. Alarms screamed through the corridors, summoning the crew to their stations. Lights flickered as power systems struggled to cope with the sudden assault. In the command center, Will Thompson sprinted to his console. Sweat trickled down his brow as he assessed the situation. The ship's sensors showed a barrage of unidentified projectiles originating from the surface of XO9. "Status report," Captain Adrian Clark barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. Will's fingers danced over the control panel. "We're under heavy fire from ground-based emplacements. Shields are holding, but I don't know for how long." Dr. Emily Hawthorne, the lead scientist, approached with urgency. "We have teams on the surface. They're completely exposed." Captain Clark's expression hardened. "We need to get them out. Thompson, you're in charge of the extraction team. Get down there and bring our people back." Will nodded, determination replacing his initial hesitation. He hurried to the shuttle bay, gathering a team of engineers and medics, including Dr. Nathan Carter. The shuttle launched, weaving through the barrage with practiced skill. Will's mind raced, focusing on the mission ahead and the lives depending on their success. The shuttle landed roughly on XO9's rugged terrain. The crew disembarked quickly, scanning their surroundings. The landscape was alien and hostile, with jagged rocks and unfamiliar vegetation. The oppressive heat added to their urgency. "Move fast," Will ordered. "We need to find our people before the next wave hits." The team advanced cautiously, weapons ready. They navigated through rocky outcrops and dense foliage, following the distress signals from their stranded comrades. Suddenly, a shrill noise pierced the air, and they were ambushed by a group of alien warriors. These were the Zyrax, a species with chitinous armor and fierce, predatory eyes. "Defensive positions," Captain Clark shouted. The team formed a protective circle, firing at the advancing Zyrax. The aliens were relentless, using the terrain to their advantage. Amid the chaos, Will noticed a lone Zyrax observing the battle from a distance. Unlike the others, this one seemed hesitant. Will's instincts told him there was more to their enemy than met the eye. As the firefight continued, he spotted an opportunity and signaled Captain Clark. "Cover me," Will said. Breaking from the group and sprinting towards the hesitant Zyrax, he approached cautiously, weapon lowered. The Zyrax regarded him with wary eyes. "My name is Will Thompson," he said slowly. "We don't want to fight. We're just here to retrieve our people." The Zyrax clicked its mandibles, considering. "I am Kale," it replied in a halting but clear tone. "Your presence here is a threat. We defend our territory." Will nodded. "I understand, but we didn't come to harm you. Help us find our crew, and we'll leave peacefully." Kale hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me, quickly." Will signaled his team to stand down. They followed Kale through a series of narrow, twisting paths that led to an underground cavern. Inside, they found the captured crew members, bound but unharmed. "Release them," Kale instructed a group of Zyrax guards. "They are leaving." The crew was freed, and Will thanked Kale. "You're making the right choice." Kale looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Go now. More Zyrax will come, and they will not be so understanding." The team hurried back to the shuttle, the rescued crew members in tow. They took off, the ground fire less intense now thanks to Kale's intervention. As the shuttle ascended, Will couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something larger. Back on the Endeavour, Captain Clark clapped Will on the shoulder. "Good work, Thompson. You saved lives today." Will nodded, though his thoughts were elsewhere. The encounter with Kale had stirred something in him. There was a complexity to the Zyrax that he hadn't anticipated. He resolved to learn more, for the sake of future missions. The Endeavour hovered in orbit, a silent sentinel above XO9's rugged surface. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense as the crew regrouped. Will Thompson paced the command center, reviewing the footage from their recent mission. "We need to understand why the Zyrax attacked us so fiercely," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone in particular. Dr. Emily Hawthorne approached, her face serious. "Will, we've been analyzing the data. The Zyrax are extremely territorial, but there's something else. They're protecting something, possibly a resource or an ancient site. Captain Adrian Clark joined them, his brow furrowed. We can't afford another confrontation. We need more intel. Thompson, I'm sending you and your team back down. Find out what's motivating the Zyrax and see if we can negotiate. Will nodded, determination etched on his features. Understood, Captain. The shuttle bay was a hive of activity as Will assembled his team. Dr. Nathan Carter checked the medical supplies while the engineers secured their equipment. Kale, the Zyrax outcast who had helped them earlier, stood apart, his eyes scanning the room with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. We're going back down, Will said, addressing the group. This time, we're not just rescuing our people. We're going to find out what the Zyrax are hiding and see if there's a way to coexist. Kale stepped forward, his voice a low hum. I will guide you, but you must tread carefully. My people do not trust easily. The shuttle descended once more, navigating through the turbulent atmosphere of XO9. They landed near a cluster of rock formations that Kale indicated. As they disembarked, the alien landscape loomed around them, jagged and unforgiving. Stay alert, Will instructed. Kale, lead the way. The team followed Kale through a narrow canyon, the walls towering high above them. The air was thick with humidity, and the ground beneath their feet was uneven and treacherous. They moved cautiously, every sense on high alert. After what felt like hours, they emerged into a vast cavern, illuminated by bioluminescent flora that cast an eerie glow. At the center of the cavern was a structure, ancient and imposing, covered in alien glyphs. This is what they're protecting, Dr. Hawthorne whispered, awe in her voice. Kale nodded. This is an ancient temple, sacred to the Zyrax. It holds the secrets of our ancestors. Will approached the structure, his mind racing. We need to document this. It could be the key to understanding the Zyrax and finding a way to coexist. As they began their investigation, the ground trembled. Zyrax warriors emerged from hidden passages, their weapons drawn. Kale stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. Wait, we come in peace, Will shouted, hoping to defuse the situation. The Zyrax warriors paused, their leader, a formidable figure named Rax, stepping forward. You intrude on sacred ground, Rax growled. Why should we trust you? Will took a deep breath. We didn't know. We want to understand and respect your culture. Help us, and we can find a way to coexist. Rax studied Will for a moment before nodding. You have one chance. Prove your intentions. The team worked quickly, documenting the temple and learning from Kale and Rax about the Zyrax's history and traditions. They discovered that the Zyrax had been protecting an energy source that powered their civilization, and the temple was built to safeguard it. We have what we need, Dr. Hawthorne said, packing up her equipment. Let's head back and report. As they prepared to leave, the ground shook violently. An earthquake, likely triggered by their presence, threatened to collapse the cavern. Rax and his warriors sprang into action, helping the humans navigate the crumbling pathways. Move now, Will shouted, guiding his team through the chaos. They reached the shuttle just as the cavern began to collapse entirely. Rax and his warriors held the rear, ensuring everyone made it out safely. The shuttle lifted off, narrowly escaping the collapsing landscape below. Back on the Endeavor, Will and his team debriefed with Captain Clark. We've learned a lot, Will said, exhaustion evident in his voice. There's a chance for peace, but it's fragile. Captain Clark nodded. We'll proceed with caution. Good work, everyone. As the ship stabilized in orbit, Will reflected on the day's events. The encounter with the Zyrax had been intense, but it had also opened the door to understanding. They had taken the first steps toward coexistence, but there was still much to be done. The Endeavor maintained a vigilant orbit over XO9, its crew diligently processing the newfound data on the Zyrax and their ancient temple. The atmosphere aboard was a mix of cautious optimism and lingering tension. Will Thompson stood at the command center's main console, his gaze fixed on the readings. We need to understand the energy source the Zyrax are protecting, he said, addressing the team gathered around him. It could be the key to establishing a lasting peace. Dr. Emily Hawthorne nodded, her expression thoughtful. The energy readings indicate a power source unlike anything we've encountered. If we can figure out how it works, it might open new possibilities for both our species. Captain Adrian Clark joined them, his face lined with concern. We've made some progress with Rax, but there are still many Zyrax who view us as invaders. We need to tread carefully. As the team discussed their next steps, an alert sounded. Unidentified Zyrax forces approaching, the automated voice announced. Will's heart sank. He knew this could jeopardize their delicate truce. Prepare for possible engagement, Captain Clark ordered, his voice calm but firm. Thompson, get down to the surface and see if you can defuse the situation. Will quickly assembled his team, including Kale and Dr. Carter. The shuttle launched and made its descent, landing near the temple where Zyrax warriors had begun to gather, their expressions hostile. Kale stepped forward, speaking in his native tongue. The Zyrax leader, Rax, appeared from the ranks, his face a mask of anger. "Why have you returned?" he demanded. Will raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "We're not here to fight. We want to understand the energy source and find a way to coexist." Rax's eyes narrowed. "Our trust in you is fragile, human. One wrong move and it will shatter." As they spoke, the ground beneath them rumbled. The temple's entrance glowed with an eerie light, drawing everyone's attention. Dr. Hawthorne gasped. "The energy source, it's reacting to something." The team and Zyrax warriors cautiously approached the temple. Inside, the energy pulse grew stronger, illuminating the ancient glyphs on the walls. Will could feel the power resonating through the air, a force both mesmerizing and intimidating. "This is incredible," Dr. Carter murmured, scanning the readings. "It's like the temple is alive." Rax watched them closely. "This temple has stood for millennia. It holds the power of our ancestors." Will turned to Rax, his expression earnest. "We need to understand this power. It could benefit both our peoples." Before Rax could respond, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. A group of rogue Zyrax, dissenters unhappy with the current leadership, stormed in, weapons drawn. Their leader, a fierce warrior named Kor, pointed at Will and his team. "These humans cannot be trusted," Kor shouted. "They seek to destroy our heritage." The air grew thick with tension. Will and his team were outnumbered and cornered. He knew a fight here could destroy any hope of peace. "We don't have to do this," Will said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We can find a way to work together." Kor sneered. "There is no working together. Only survival of the fittest." Just as the situation seemed ready to erupt into violence, the temple's energy flared, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The force knocked everyone off their feet. As the dust settled, a deep voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in the Zyrax language. Rax's eyes widened. "It's the voice of our ancestors," he whispered. Will glanced at Kale for translation. Kale's face was pale. "The voice speaks of unity and harmony. It warns against the destruction of our world." Rax stood, his resolve strengthening. "We must heed the words of our ancestors. Kor, lay down your weapons. The temple has spoken." Kor hesitated, his eyes filled with fury. "This isn't over," he growled, but he signaled his warriors to stand down. Will felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you, Rax. This could be the start of something new." Rax nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but trust is hard-earned and easily broken. Do not betray us." As they exited the temple, Will's mind raced with the implications of what they had learned. The energy source was more than just a power supply. It was a relic of Zyrax heritage, a symbol of their history and culture. Understanding it could bridge the gap between their species. Back on the Endeavor, the team debriefed with Captain Clark. "We've made significant progress," Will reported. "But it's a delicate balance. We need to approach this with respect and caution." Captain Clark nodded. "Agreed. This is an opportunity we can't afford to squander." The Endeavor floated above XO9, its crew on high alert after the recent encounters with the Zyrax. In the command center, Will Thompson and Captain Adrian Clark reviewed the data they had gathered from the ancient temple. The atmosphere was tense but filled with cautious optimism. "We have a unique opportunity here," Captain Clark said, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of XO9. "The temple's energy source is vital to the Zyrax, and understanding it could lead to a lasting peace." Will nodded. "Rax has shown a willingness to cooperate, but Kor and his faction remain a threat. We need to solidify our alliance with Rax and demonstrate our intentions." Dr. Emily Hawthorne joined them, holding a tablet displaying the latest scans. "We've detected another energy spike near the temple. It might be another structure or a related artifact. If we can study it, we could gain more insight into Zyrax technology." Captain Clark agreed. "Thompson, assemble a team. Find that artifact and secure it. This might be our best chance to prove our good intentions." Will gathered his team, including Cale and Dr. Nathan Carter, and prepared for their mission. As the shuttle descended towards the temple, Cale briefed them on what to expect. "The area we're heading to is sacred," Cale explained. "It's heavily guarded, and the Zyrax there may not be as open to negotiation as Rax." The shuttle touched down near the temple, and the team disembarked, moving cautiously towards the new energy source. The landscape was rugged, with towering rock formations and dense, alien flora. "Stay alert," Will instructed. "We're not just looking for an artifact. We're here to build trust." As they approached the site, they encountered a group of Zyrax warriors. Rax emerged from their ranks, his expression serious. "Thompson, I've brought you here to show our trust. But remember, one misstep could end this fragile peace." Will nodded, appreciating Rax's trust. "We're here to learn and help, Rax. Let's find this artifact together." The group moved deeper into the canyon, guided by the energy readings from Dr. Hawthorne's equipment. They soon came upon a large, ornate structure half buried in the ground. Ancient glyphs covered its surface, glowing faintly. "This is it," Dr. Hawthorne said, awe in her voice. "It's another part of the temple, perhaps even more significant than the first." As they began their study, the ground trembled. Kor and his rogue faction emerged from the shadows, weapons drawn. "You dare desecrate our sacred sites again?" Kor shouted, his eyes blazing with anger. Will stepped forward, hands raised. "Kor, we're not here to fight. We want to understand and help." Kor sneered. "Your words mean nothing. Only action matters." Before anyone could react, a series of explosions rocked the area. Kor's forces had planted charges, aiming to destroy the site rather than let it fall into human hands. The ground shook violently, and debris began to fall. "Everyone, take cover," Will shouted, grabbing Cale and diving behind a large boulder. The explosions caused a landslide, and chaos erupted. Amid the turmoil, Rax and his warriors fought to protect the site, while Will and his team struggled to stabilize the structure. Dr. Hawthorne worked frantically to neutralize the charges, her hands moving with precision and speed. "We can't let it collapse," she cried out. "This site is too important." Will and Rax fought side by side, fending off Kor's warriors. The battle was intense, but the humans and Rax's loyalists managed to hold their ground. In the midst of the fight, Will spotted Kor planting another explosive device near a critical support beam. "Rax, we need to stop him," Will shouted. Rax nodded, and they charged at Kor together. A fierce struggle ensued, but they managed to overpower Kor and disable the device. Kor glared at them, defiant to the end. "This isn't over," he spat, before retreating with his remaining forces. With the immediate threat neutralized, Dr. Hawthorne successfully defused the remaining charges. The structure, though damaged, was saved. Rax looked at Will, gratitude and respect in his eyes. "You have proven your intentions, Thompson. Perhaps there is hope for our peoples after all." Will smiled, relief washing over him. "We still have a lot to learn, but we're committed to making this work." Back on the Endeavor, the team debriefed with Captain Clark. "We've made significant progress," Will reported. "Rax is on our side, and we've gained valuable insights into Zyrax technology. Captain Clark nodded. This could be the start of a true partnership. Good work, everyone.